Now coming to Amazon as a company, right? So it is headquartered in Seattle, USA, right? And they started in 1995 as a online bookstore company, right? So then they started selling CDs, VHS, video games, and so on. Then they had some business challenges within their business model. So from 1995 to 2003, they had a lot of developers across the globe, right? So they were developing solutions for the customers, like the online web application and how they can provide access to the audio store, online bookstore materials, and so on. So the development was happening, but the organization felt there is a lot of areas where reusability is missing, where people are spending efforts, the same kind of efforts is being spent across the globe. They had geographically dispersed team across Europe, Americas, and even in the offshore locations. They had engineers working for them, the developers were working for them, and the reusability and the collaboration was kind of missing, right? And what Amazon did, they want to improve the collaboration between the developers. They want to bring in reusability of what is being developed in different geographical location. So what they thought is, like, they have to build an online platform where the teams can collaborate better, the developers can exchange the activities that they are doing, and post the development activities are done, they can reuse it in a better way, right? That's how it all started. So Chris and Benjamin from AWS, they started doing a analysis in terms of how they can bring in better collaboration and thereby reusability and all those things. They came up with the idea that we have to bring all the developers into a common cloud platform on the web line, on the web internet, right? So then they suggested that we should we should put all the developer codes in a secure location, and then we should provide access to all the developers so that they can go and check in what is already available and so on. And this definitely helped, and things started improving in terms of collaboration and reusability. And then they started selling the developed code or as applications as a service from the cloud platform. Then customers were asking, like, they want to have some exchange of information between their business application and customer business application. Then they said we have to develop something for the integration. They came up with a solution called simple queuing service, where the queue can act as the intermediate message queuing platform between different business applications. So that is the first service that Amazon came up with on their AWS platform. Then they want to provide similar services. So whatever they are experiencing, they started selling it as a product, right? For example, if Amazon was providing phone call support or online support or on-call support via the web chat and all those things. And what they did is, after a few years, they sold that as a product. Amazon Connect is a product which they were internally using for satisfying the customer calls and helping them with the chat and all those things. They developed that as an application, and they gave it in their online web platform. So if you ask me, like, when actually AWS platform was brought in, so it came in 2006. It's almost 18 years now since the incorporation of AWS platform uh, for providing the computing services over the internet, right? And see, in 2007 itself, they had a handful of developers. So 2 lakh developers came into the AWS platform, and they started developing different applications, putting the code in a secure location, trying to sell it as a developed product, and so on. So 2 lakh developers in 2007 itself, right? So that's how the growth was in the first few years. And then they started realizing we should start providing not limited to application related queuing platform, or not just limited to storage. So we have to expand our services into compute services, and we should start providing niche skill products as well. And now we have 200 plus widely used products and services on AWS platform, right? So this has evolved a lot, and I think the first few years they did not have any certifications or nothing like that. So I think starting 2011 they started bringing in certifications, exams, and all those things, right? So only last 10 years we have, or like 13 years, we have this exams and certifications from AWS. But Microsoft is completely different. I started with my first certification with Microsoft in 2004, where I wrote, I think, XP, and 2003. I mean, Amazon did not have any certifications and exams like other providers, so they started giving certifications and exams starting 2011, and they added a lot of specialty exams over the period, right? So in 2015 and 16, that is when they started seeing a very high inclination. So in fact, there was a good competition that came in around this time from Microsoft, but Microsoft did not catch into the market with their cloud product called Windows Azure. Okay, so initially when it was introduced, it had a branding called Windows Azure. So that itself is a problem, right? So Windows is a operating system flavor from Microsoft, and they were trying to allow the customers to run their application on Microsoft Windows, Microsoft.NET, and their own databases and so on. So people coming into public cloud platform will want to utilize the open source product. They don't want to get tied into a particular vendor and so on. So it did not become a success until 2014 or 15, until Satya Nadella took over the platform and rebranded it to Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft Azure came in around 2014. That's when the real competition started. Only the last 10 years was the competition between Microsoft and Amazon. But Amazon evolved like anything in the first 10 years, even before Microsoft started putting together a better idea to boost their business. But as on date, yeah, it is definitely a very tough fight between Amazon and Azure. But the first 10 years, it is all about Amazon and how they want to mature. They have matured like anything. And in around 2012-13 period, Amazon data center was around 8 times bigger than the other competitors data center put together. When I say other competitors put together, it includes the likes of HP, IBM, Microsoft, Google. All their data center put together, Amazon data center size was 8 times bigger than all their other data centers put together. So which means from 2006 to 2012 they have been investing on data centers, building up the data center like anything. But for the other providers, like for example, if you take Microsoft, they were into the IT even since the early 90s, right? So they had data centers to provide services for their end customer, for Microsoft Office or Microsoft Windows, or providing the updates or whatever. They had data center even before Amazon came into IT, right? But then the market was not captured by Microsoft without a proper plan initially. That gave Amazon a lot of advantage in terms of catching up the business. So in 2012 they had a very big market. So they understood there is a big amount of opportunity in the cloud space, and they invested like anything, and they become the monopoly in terms of the data center size, right? So that's how it was the situation in 2012-13 period. And the business was growing like anything. In 2015 they had around 6 billion kind of business, and then year on year it started doubling, right? So this is the period, I would say, golden period for AWS until 2018, until Google and Microsoft started giving a tough fight. Now see, Google is a little different. So they provide a lot of fight around the niche skill products, right? Like on around AI, ML, IoT. Google provides a lot of features, functionalities, even big data. A lot of services are there from Google, which is more matured, which has got a lot of features and functionalities. But when it comes to the initial period, it was all about infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, right? Not on these areas. So Google is catching up the market primarily on the niche skill technologies and product and services. When it comes to innovation, Google is kind of providing a lot of better services, especially like containerized workload, modernized workload. Google has got a lot of option, but the competition is primarily between Microsoft and Amazon, even on date when it comes to infrastructure as a service and platform as a service, right? So Amazon did not start as an IT company to start with, so they started with something else as a bookstore, and they went into online bookstore medium. Then they started selling DVDs, and they got some internet exposure, and they started coming up with ideas where they can sell something on the cloud, and now they are selling anything and everything, A to Z, right? So that's how Amazon has evolved, and AWS is one of their very successful platform, which is being consumed from 250 plus countries and territories, right? And a lot of customers are increasing day by day. So this is the short history about how AWS came in and how Amazon has turned into a IT cloud service provider company. And during this period, 200 plus widely used services has been introduced, the likes of EC2, Amazon S3, SNS, and so on, right? We can keep listing it. I'll come to the product listing little later. Right now, cloud plus Amazon is tied together, and they have started providing services to 250 plus countries across the globe. So their global presence is like huge, right? We will get to understand how they are providing services across the globe for the customers now. So Amazon, AWS. So AWS, as I told you, through this platform, they are providing computing services, right? Be it application, or be it just CPU memory to run your applications, or containerized workload. So they have different geographical structure or global presence. Primarily, they have segregated their data centers into a group called region. This is a logical grouping. This is a logical location, I would say. And currently, as on date, they have got around 34 regions, which is huge, right? And within that region, they subdivide the regions into zones. Okay, so when I say zones initially, like 7 8 years back, it was just availability zones earlier, but now they also have few more zone concept, right? Availability zones, local zones, and then we have wavelength zone. So we'll get to understand all these different zones in detail. They also have something called placement group within the data centers. So this is something which we will discuss in details, okay, which is something very important for the solutioning aspect. So if we understand these things, we can have better solutioning in terms of high availability, resiliency, and fault tolerance. So when it comes to regions, right? So this is how they have structured their global presence, and currently around 245 countries, or I would say 250 countries approximately, are accessing the services from AWS. Okay, and 34 region, and I would say somewhere around 80 85 or 84 approximate availability zones. I would say availability zones are nothing but physical big data centers. It's not small data center, it's a big data center, whereas the local zone and wavelength zone are comparatively a small data center, right? So availability zones are physical data centers. So they have got around 80 plus physical data centers across the globe. In some locations, availability zone maybe one single data center, or even two or three clustered together based on the location and the space that they've got. For example, if it is Hong Kong or Singapore, they might not get a lot of real estate space. They might have a small, or I mean, not small, like they might have one data center there. But in some locations, an availability zone might be two or three physical data center clustered together. So minimum they have two data center in almost all the location. to maximum 6 or 7 as well in some of the regions. So they started their AWS business in North Virginia. That is the first region they launched with, and then that North Virginia region has got 6 availability zones, and even they are planning to have one more there. So it is evolving, it is expanding. Currently, AWS is trying to set up 6 more regions, I guess, or 6 or 7. I'm not sure of the numbers. Even you don't have to really have these numbers on top of your mind. There is no exam questions around these numbers and all. So it is just about knowing how they are expanding. So they have plans to have more regions in Middle East. They have Saudi Arabia location coming in Asia. They have Thailand, and in Oceania they have New Zealand, and I would say even in, I think, Taiwan also they are setting up something, and they are also setting up something in South America, the region like Mexico and so on, right? So they are expanding, and the number of data centers are also going to increase. Like, I think 18 to 20 new availability zones are getting built. So roughly, I would say 40 regions and 100 data centers, 100 availability zones across the globe is there for providing the computing services for the customer. And how about these ones, right? The local zones, wavelength zones, the numbers are good there as well. I think close to 40 local zones, or 40, 41 local zones are there, and there are around 29 wavelength zones. Don't worry about the terminologies. I will explain you what exactly is a local zone, what how exactly it will differ from availability zone, right? So and these are the some of the number, and some application may be clustered, and you have to place them in different data center rack, or if you want to place them in different network or different data centers within the same region. This placement group will help you to place the servers in different rack, different data centers, so that the availability increases, improves using this placement group concept. So we will see all these things, where exactly the option is in a visual way. We will see all those stuffs, right? So zone, you can think of zone as a physical data center. It can be of different sizes. So availability zone is a big major data center, whereas local zones and wavelength zones are built to provide better latency, better support for some of the business that they're running. See, for example, local zone, the business was started to primarily cater the needs of the companies like Netflix, Ubitus. So these companies, they had a lot of latency issues, right? See, let's get into that, right? So availability zone, I hope you all understand, it is a physical data center. So a region comprises of multiple physical data centers. Physical data centers are equal to availability zone. Okay, that much you have to understand. Now, coming to the zones, the second stuff. See, if you are not clear, like, stop me there only. Okay, so I will try to explain it in a different way, so that way you can understand it. Okay, so availability zone is equal to data center. Local zone is a extension of a region. So all these zones are extension of region. So primarily you have to choose a region.
Stanley,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry to interrupt you.
No worries. Yeah.
If you can just explain me about the regions and zones one more time. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
Ratish. No worries. Okay.
This is
So
Atish here.
no problem, Ratish. So see, globally, AWS have to provide services inclined to customers' security compliance requirement, right? See, for example, if you go to Europe and EMEA locations, they have a very strict Data Protection Act. So GDPR has to be compliant, and we have to comply with that. And the data that whatever we are storing, it has to be within that geographical location. It has to be within that geography, right? In order to meet out that requirement, AWS has started building their data centers into a group called region to start with. So region might be, for example, Mumbai is a region, and then Chennai is a region. So it is like you don't think about the physical uh, global. Don't get confused with the countries and how the continents are grouped together. So this is a grouping done by AWS to provide services from different geographical locations. So within India itself, they have locations like Mumbai, Hyderabad, and so on, and where customers can pick and choose whichever region they want to run their services. I will help you with how to identify the best region for your application. There are mechanism to identify, there are mechanism to find out which region is better for our application. Because, for example, you might be running businesses from Delhi, and you might be running it from Bangalore. So Mumbai, Chennai, and Hyderabad might be at the same latency, but there are other factors, there are other areas which you have to consider while choosing the particular region. So region is a logical construct in order to provide services towards a particular security legal compliance requirement. And within that region, AWS has created multiple physical data center. See, when you are running services on your own physical data center, it is only one data center, and if that data center goes through some power outage or natural disaster, your entire application is gone. But here, cloud gives you option to cluster your application between region, between data centers, between different track, so that your availability can improve, you can provide better services for your end customer, right? So zones are nothing but a sub concept of region. So region is kind of extended with services like local zones and wavelength zone, and availability zone is nothing but a physical data center within the region, okay, where you are running your services on a particular server or rack and so on. But whereas local zone, it is slightly different. So if the, for example, let's say you are running your application from Delhi, right? Delhi does not have an availability zone. So availability zone is mainly available. Maybe let's do one thing. Let me also get into the portal so you get to understand AWS global infrastructure. Okay. See, this is how they are placed now. Okay, and if you look at India, so they have got Hyderabad, which was recently launched a couple of years back, and Mumbai is there with 3 availability zone, and they have got 2 local zone. Okay, so this is the second part which I'm trying to explain. So if you go into the list view, you can see the list of regions and list of availability zones that they have got in different location. So most of you are from India location, right? So let's focus on the India location here. See, Mumbai was launched in way back in 2016, and they have got 3 data centers, availability zones, and 2 local zones as an extension. And if you look at some of the Japan region, it has got availability zone, it has got local zone, and it has got wavelength zone also. So we are trying to differentiate between what exactly the availability zone, local zone, and wavelength zones are, right? So that is what we are trying to differentiate. So in see, let's say you are running business from Delhi location, and if you look at the list of edge locations, or if you look at the list of local zones and wavelength zone, you might see the some of the cities which are having a lot of maybe see, there are a lot of different businesses that we do from the headquarters, right? So Delhi is our headquarters, but business wise the headquarters is Mumbai. So that's the reason Amazon has chosen Mumbai as a location to run the data center. And there are other reasons as well. See, comparatively, the like if you think about the geographical way of identifying a place, uh, Delhi and nearby locations are prone to earthquake, right? So data centers are not a good spot where you see a lot of earthquakes and natural disasters, right? So if the people go and run their data center closest to a location where they have a port or a seaport, right? So example, Mumbai, Chennai, these places have got a nearby port where the overseas cabling connections, overseas network connections get terminated there only, right? So generally the businesses choose the availability zones and data center where you have less discrepancy, less distractions, or these are all seismic zone areas, right? Delhi, Kolkata, these are all seismic zones where we hear about earthquakes and some kind of natural disasters time and again. So if you are running data center from these location, it is going to be a tough time because your electronic components will fail because of the seismic issues that they have. So that is the reason primarily they go for Mumbai, Delhi kind of Mumbai, Chennai kind of locations to run the data center. The second primary reason is like they have a lot of overseas cabling connection, internet connections getting terminated into those areas, and that helps getting better bandwidth and so on. So now let's go into the Mumbai example, right? Mumbai has got availability zone and the local zones also. So the local zone is an extension of region. So for example, you have chosen Mumbai, but then still, if you are running your application in Mumbai region, some of the application might experience latency issues. Okay, so you might not be able to have the application accessible in the single millisecond, or the latency issues will be there, the bandwidth issues will be there. So what AWS has done is they have created an extension of region as a local zone. This is a kind of small data center which will be running in the nearby location on your premises. For example, Chennai has got a lot of industries around Sriperumbudur and some nearby areas, right, where there is a lot of companies connecting to internet, exchanging a lot of data and so on. So if the data center is created next to those areas, it will be beneficial for them in terms of uploading, downloading, accessing certain data. It will they will get millisecond single millisecond latency, right? So this is mainly deployed to experience a better latency, get better bandwidth, and so on. See, companies who are into real-time gaming, companies who are into streaming, live streaming, like for example, they are Netflix as a company, or if you are a company who is more into artificial or virtual reality and so on. So these companies, they need a lot of even the gaming also, right? People multiple people connect together, and they might expect a better latency. There is a lot of graphics involved, and obviously you need single digit millisecond latency. Just a second. Okay. So yeah, wherever whatever applications which needs a less latency, better bandwidth, and so on, what you can do is you can go and run your application on the local zone. That way, those application can be easily accessible for the companies which are running in the outskirts, or whichever wherever location the local zones are built up. So local zones are an extension of region where AWS is trying to bring their services closer to your company location. So that way you can you can run your services. So you can go and create some compute virtual machines, you can run some containers, you can store some content there, you can create databases, but not every services will be there. Okay, it will be only selective services that will be there available on your local zone, but availability zone will have every single service that AWS offers. But it depends on region to region. Not all regions will have all the services. Some region might have 190 services, some region might have 200, some might have 210, and so on, right? But availability zone will have the maximum number of services, but local zone is primarily to bring better experience for the companies who are like wherever, like for example, they will create a local zone in locations like Sriperumbudur or OMR, because like there is a lot of transaction happening there. So if they create a local zone there, so that way that local zone to availability zone, they have a very high metro fiber cabling. So it will be like whatever you are storing in local zone, the same amount. I mean, it will be just like that within few, I mean, within a single millisecond, the data will also get transferred to availability zone. So in order to bring that experience, in order to bring the better experience for the customer, they have set up this local zone, which is closer to your office location or company location. But similarly, the other companies like the communication service provider companies, like wherever there is a lot of development activities and they want to push a lot of new enhancements, features, and stuff, the developers are innovating on a daily basis or a regular basis. They come up with new features, new application, and whatever the changes they are making, they want to push it to the primary application, whatever they have. So in order to facilitate that, AWS has set up something called wavelength zone. So wavelength zone is something which is a kind of joint venture, right? So they what they have done is they have worked with some of the communication service provider like Verizon. What example we have? So okay, Tokyo also have wavelength zone, right? So like KDDI. So these are all a big major communication service provider. So these are all, I would say, 5G edge locations where they have joint ventured on setting up a data center called wavelength zone, where customers can utilize this wavelength zone to get better speed, better CI/CD experience. Whatever new features, functionalities you are developing, you can quickly merge it into your primary application, which is running on the availability zone. So again, wavelength zone is a extension of region where the companies, whoever want to get ultra low latency for their development application, they can use this wavelength zone. So these are all something which you might use very rarely in your solutioning, but you need to be aware that there are certain options like local zone and wavelength zone which you can utilize. But primarily for the exam, you can just focus on regions, and within that, availability zone is a physical data center where you run most of your application. So 95% of the application will be running on availability zone, but wherever possible, you can run your applications on local zone and wavelength zone. See, wavelength zones are very limited. You can see it in Tokyo, you can see it in Seoul, and very few locations, right? Not every location has got wavelength zone. Wavelength zones are very limited. I think around 29 to 30 wavelength zones are there, but availability zones are already close to 100. Right, let me just come back here. So when you want to run your services, okay, let's say, for example, I'm now physically located in Chennai, right? I can just go and check AWS latency for region or availability zone. I can go and use the official site wherever possible, but there are certain uh, third-party sites which can give you better insight. For example, I want to run my services and I want to access my services from the location. Let's assume that I'm sitting in an office location. So they are saying that the parent region, you can go with Mumbai. That is the best parent region you can choose. So I can choose this parent region, and they also have a lot of local zones, right? So they have got Kolkata, they have got Delhi, and so on. So these are all local zones which I can choose, right? And they say like if I go with combination of Kolkata and Mumbai, then it will be a better option, right? And also if you just scroll down, they are saying Mumbai has got very good latency. If you are going with just region alone, you can access all the services in 27 millisecond. But if you go with other combination, you will get similar. See, for example, Hyderabad is also accessible, but with 31 milliseconds of latency. So see, physically, if you count the aerial distance, more or less it is at almost the same distance, right? But then you can see that the Mumbai region is better. So there are similar criterias you have to think about, like you have to choose when you're choosing a particular region or local zone or whatever. There are criterias on how you can choose it, right? Not just limited to the latency. Even you need to identify whether the service that you're looking for is available in that region, and whether there is a difference in cost between these two regions, whether there is a performance difference, whether it is meeting up our compliance, security, legal requirements, and all those things, right? So I will explain what are the different stuffs you need to look into while choosing a region. But there are a lot of online tools. Even there are official tools from AWS, which provides you a lot of latency testing and so on. See, it clearly tells me that I'm in this particular Chennai location, and then these are the possible good options to choose from. Right, I will explain these things a little later, but for now, AWS is globally present, and around 250 plus countries are accessing the services from these regions and availability zone, and they have got these many subdivisions within the region. In addition to this, okay, so okay, I'll complete this one first. Okay, the placement group, right? The placement group is, as the name suggests, it is about placing your applications, right? When I say placing your application, let's say not every application will be running on single server, right? Your application might be clustered, and it might have three or four servers running together as a cluster. And when you want to place them for high availability, you need to definitely place them in different racks, different servers, different networks, so that a rack failure or a power failure or a server failure or a component failure should not impact your application. So what you can do with placement group is you can bring in anti-affinity. When I say anti-affinity, you can go and place your servers into different rack, different server, different network. So that way your applications are clustered across multiple different racks and servers. So even a single component failure or a single rack failure or a single server failure will not impact your application. So placement group helps you to place your servers or application into different rack. But in the placement group can also be used in other way also. For example, this is spreading concept. You are spreading your servers into different rack server to bring in more availability, high availability. You are enhancing the fault tolerance, or you are bringing in more resiliency for your application. But on the other way around, you might sometimes you might also have to bring in affinity also. So when I say affinity, so let's say your application is multi-tiered or three-tiered application. So you have a web tier, you have an app tier, you have a database tier. So if your web server, app server, and database server are running on different rack and different network, it will bring in unnecessary latency, right? It will bring in unnecessary traffic and so on. So what you can do is you can bring all the servers together, right? You can bring them closer. So if you are bringing them together into the same server, same rack, same network, the latency will be much better, the transaction will be faster, and so on. So if you want to bring the server closer, you have option within the placement group. If you want the server to be spread across multiple racks, multiple servers and network, you can also do that using anti-affinity. So you can spread the servers, or you can also bring the servers closer. I will explain this concept in little more details later. But placement group is an option on how you can place your server into a particular rack or a particular server or a particular network. So that option is also, flexibility is also available with Amazon Web Services. So in addition to this AWS global presence that we are discussing, in addition to regions, zones, we also have got something called edge location. See, edge location is mainly about bringing in uh, catching, or I would say this is mainly for ultra low latency application, where if you want to have CDN. Okay, some people call it as content delivery network. Some people call it as cloud front. It is one location before your cloud. That's why it is called as cloud front. Okay, so there some people call it as content delivery network. But at the end, it is all the same, right? The edge location, catching location, content delivery location, cloud front location, and some people call it as POP location, point of presence location. So these setup is mainly to enhance the connectivity to the application. It is mainly for your ultra low latency application requirement. What this particular location, or what this particular functionality will do is, it will start catching the frequently accessed content. So whatever content you are regularly accessing, whatever application you are regularly accessing, those contents will be cached in this particular edge location. So that way, whenever there is a new request, or whenever there is a similar request going on from a neighbor user, or when you are trying to access the content again, the content will not come from the main region. Instead, it will be cached in the edge location, and you will be able to access it, right? So edge locations are primarily to um, bring in ultra low latency for your application. So while the contents are getting cached, it will provide quick access to your application. Okay, there are around 600 plus CloudFront POP location across different state, I mean cities. Okay, so I think even Chennai has got a CloudFront POP, and there are little, I mean, bigger sized catching location also. So they call it as regional edge caches. So regional edge caches are little heavy in size. So ideally, what they will do in this edge location is, they will have a kind of small server room setup from the network provider. So in on top of the server room, they will also add some network appliances to perform catching, like Riverbed, and they will also have some security devices. They will have some storage appliances, plus some compute to manage all these things. So it will not be a full-fledged data center like availability zone or local zone. It will be a network location, or a network room instead of a server room. It will be more of a network room, where they will have the network appliance to do the catching, and they will have some backend storage to facilitate all the contents being cached and so on. So this is mainly to do catching activities and provide quick access to the regularly or the frequently accessed content. So there are around 13 major catching locations in different geographical locations. You can also go and get the names of those. Okay, so if you go to this particular site, you can see the edge locations here. So in India, I would could see. Okay, so these are all the catch locations from Europe, right? And similarly, okay, just let me check regional catches. So most of the regional catches you might see it in. Okay, so these are the regional catches. Regional catch location will be very much near to the primary region, but these are all the edge locations. You can see there is a one in Chennai, India also, right? And you can also see there is one in Kolkata. You should also have one in New Delhi, right? Because of the headquarters, and you might also have one in Pune also. They have one, right? So these are all the catch locations where it can help you to facilitate quick access to the regularly accessed content or frequently accessed content. Okay, so this is how AWS is spread across. If you look at the map structure here, you can see that they have got these active locations already, right? These are the ones which are being built up. As I said, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, and okay, there is one upcoming in Germany, right? So there are a lot of things, but in South America, see, wherever the network is not good, the data centers will be very rare, right? For example, in South America and Africa locations, the network is still evolving, right? They don't have a very big 5G edge locations, or 5G communication providers are very less, and that's the reason we don't see a lot of things here. But you can see there is one in Brazil already. I heard like there is something coming up in Mexico, and here I can see one in South Africa, I mean Cape Town already. But other than that, there is nothing much there. And even in Middle East also there was very less, but now they have started adding some of the new setups like Saudi Arabia and so on. So they already have something in UAE, I guess. Yeah, UAE has got one, Bahrain has got one already. They are already grown countries, right? They have got a lot of telecommunication provider and communication services at a very good level there. So wherever, because this solution is all built on top of internet, right? As I told you, the definition itself has got the term internet there. So if you don't have a proper internet service provider or communication service provider, then bringing in public cloud platform to that location doesn't make sense, right? So that's the reason you will see a very less amount of region and locations in Africa, South America, and so on. So on a very high level, are there any questions on so far what you have discussed? Okay, on top of this, there are a few more services that AWS provide, right? So there is something called direct connect circuit or direct connect location. So this is something which you can use for physically connecting your on-premises data center with AWS, right? If you have your own on-prem data center, and if you have an application or database hosted on your on-premises data center, and if you want to have a very high connectivity from Amazon data center to your on-premises data center, you can use this direct connect facility, right? This is a physical fiber channel connection between Amazon data center and your own data center. So already there are around 135 direct connect locations available globally, which you can use for interconnecting your on-premises data center with Amazon data center. This is a physical cabling connection. This is all about networking, right? And also you have something called outposts. Okay, so AWS is initially they started providing a particular solution as a service. Now what they have done is like the Amazon AWS is successful, right? So now AWS as a private cloud, if you want to have a similar experience on how you are accessing the services from public cloud, if you want to have your own private cloud setup on your own data center, so AWS provides you Outpost, which is a private cloud solution which you can deploy in your own data center itself, like Microsoft Azure Stack, and you have got OpenStack. All these are competitors, but Outpost is a private cloud solution from Amazon. You can have the same cloud characteristics, cloud features, and benefits in your own data center itself. So that's how they are selling the services. And I think besides this, there is one more stuff you might get in the exam called ground stations. Okay, ground stations are very, very less across the globe, but this is mainly for the companies which have regular satellite connections, right? For example, if you are working for a company where weather forecasting is being done or surface imaging is done, even the companies like Uber or Ola, like they are highly dependent on the data that is being sent from the satellites, right? So this is mainly to improve the satellite communication, like which whatever applications, if you are having applications in your company which has regular connect with satellites for surface imaging or weather forecasting or Google Maps or whatever, right? Similar, there are a lot of companies. For example, if you take car companies like Nissan, Chevrolet, like they have their own application which is into the cars and so on, right? So those applications, like for example, if you take Nissan, they have an application called Leaf application that gets directly connected with satellite. So those companies can utilize this ground station to process the data, to receive the data, to send the data in a very quick way, right? This is mainly to improve the satellite connections for the companies who want to not every companies can build their own ground station, right? So it is a very big investment. But if they leverage this AWS ground station, they can, again a shared concept. Cloud is all about sharing, right? It's about renting, it's about sharing. So that way you can get a lot of benefits there. So this is how AWS is providing their services in with physical data centers and edge locations and so on. So this high level idea you should have. This is one of the key uh, understanding that is very important when you are going and solutioning for different application.